The desert swallowed the horizon, endless and merciless. A lone figure staggered down the dirt trail, his boots worn thin, his hat frayed, his eyes hollow with exhaustion. The name carved into whispers was Jonah Creed, a gunman who had killed more men than he cared to count, yet tonight the weight of his revolver was lighter than ever. He had one bullet left, just one, and before him, waiting in the dying light, stood 4 men with murder in their eyes. Jonah stopped where the dust rose like smoke around his boots. The air smelled of sweat, whiskey, and the sharp tang of iron. From the guns pointed his way, he did not blink, did not reach for his weapon. His hands hung loose at his sides, steady, calm, as though he were greeting death as an old friend rather than a rival. The 4 men shifted, their spurs clicking like the tick of a clock counting down. They were bounty hunters, faces carved hard by years of chasing shadows. Each carried scars across their skin and hunger across their eyes. They did not see Jonah as a man. They saw him as a price, a prize to be delivered cold or breathing. Either way, they would drink on his name before night swallowed the town. But Jonah was not theirs yet. He had one bullet left, and in that bullet lived choice. Choice to kill, choice to survive, or choice to make one last stand that would be remembered longer than any bounty could pay. His breath steadied, his heart a drum inside his chest, and he knew that whatever happened, the desert would take more blood before the stars claimed the sky. The town behind him held its breath. People peeked from broken windows. Gamblers froze. With cards in their hands, women clutched children against their skirts. They knew Jonah Creed's name, and they knew the men who wanted his life. None dared move, for they understood what was about to unfold. Death would walk between 4 guns and 1 bullet, and no prayer would stop it. Jonah licked the dust from his lips. His revolver was heavy at his hip, though it carried nothing but the weight of that single round. Still, he felt no fear. Fear was for men who still believed in tomorrow. Jonah believed in nothing but the fire of the present moment, where life and death danced on the edge of a trigger. The wind shifted, carrying whispers of fate through the empty street. Jonah squared his shoulders, lifted his head, and let his voice cut through the silence like a blade. 4 men, he said softly, almost a prayer, almost a curse. But I only need 1 bullet. The bounty hunters spread apart, circling Jonah like wolves closing around wounded prey. Their boots struck the ground with the rhythm of executioners, steady and merciless. They did not rush. They knew he was cornered, knew his legend carried fear but not immortality. The outlaw was flesh, and flesh could bleed. Jonah's eyes moved from one to the other. The first was broad and scarred, his jaw crooked from some old fight, his fingers twitching near his holster. The second was lean, his eyes sharp and cold, like a vulture waiting for death to stumble. The third carried a shotgun, heavy and brutal, his frame as thick as the barrel he held. And the fourth, the youngest, had eyes that flickered with doubt, but his gun hand was steady as stone. Jonah's lips curved into the faintest smile. He saw not 4 men, but 4 stories ready to end. He had killed sheriffs, soldiers, bandits, and innocents alike. Each time, he carried their weight. Each time, he buried them deeper in the hollow of his chest. But tonight, he carried only 1 chance, 1 shot. And he had to decide whose story would end first. The hunters sneered, their voices dripping venom. "1 bullet ain't enough, Creed," the scarred one growled. "Best throw down your iron, maybe we'll leave you breathing." The others chuckled low, but their laughter was nervous, because even 4 against 1, Jonah Creed was still Jonah Creed, the man who never missed when it mattered. Jonah shook his head slowly. "I don't miss," he whispered, voice low but carrying, sharp as a blade dragged across stone. The words did not boast. They were truth carved into the silence, a reminder that fear walks beside a man who has nothing left to lose. The sun sagged lower, shadows stretching long across the street. Time slowed. Every breath, every blink, every heartbeat was a countdown to the storm about to break. Jonah's hand hovered inches from his revolver, his thumb brushing the leather. He could feel the heat of the hunter's eyes, the itch of their fingers ready to draw, and in that fragile space between stillness and fire, Jonah Creed chose silence. He let the moment stretch, let it choke them with its weight. He wanted them to move first. He wanted them to step into the grave they had dug for themselves. It began with a twitch. The scarred hunter's hand jerked toward his holster, faster than a snake striking through dust. The others followed, steel flashing in the sun, thunder about to crack the world apart. Jonah moved too, his revolver clearing, the leather in a blur of fire and shadow. The first shot split the silence like lightning through a storm. Jonah's bullet found the scarred man's chest, tearing him backward into the dust, his body crumpling as blood spilled dark across the street. The crowd gasped, the echo ringing in their bones. Jonah had spent his one bullet. His gun was empty, and yet 3 men still stood. The hunters froze for a heartbeat, shock washing across their faces. They had expected Jonah to miss, to fall, to fail, but the outlaw had proven his truth. He never missed. Now, with an empty chamber, he stood, calm, his revolver smoking, his eyes steady as the grave. The lean one snarled, rage twisting his face. "He's dry!" he shouted. "Kill him!" His revolver barked, fire spitting from its barrel, bullets tearing into the dust around Jonah. The shotgun thundered next, buckshot spraying wood and stone. Jonah dove sideways, rolling hard, the empty Colt still gripped in his hand as though loaded with death itself. The crowd screamed, scattering, ducking behind barrels and walls. The air filled with smoke, with the roar of wasted bullets, with the sound of Perdition Creek drowning in chaos. Jonah crawled behind a trough, blood trickling. From a cut across his brow, breath harsh, body broken, but eyes still burning. He had no bullets left, but he had his will. And men with will have killed with less than steel. Jonah looked at the bodies, at the 3 hunters still breathing, and felt the desert whisper. It did not matter if his gun was empty. The fear was loaded, the legend alive. Jonah Creed smiled through blood. The hunters thought they faced a dying man. They did not see the truth. They faced a man who had already walked with death, and death had not claimed him yet. The hunters closed in, their steps heavy, their guns hot with fresh smoke. Jonah crouched low, his revolver hanging limp in his hand, his chest heaving. He could hear their boots in the dirt, hear their laughter poisoned with cruelty. To them, the fight was over. To Jonah, it had just begun. The lean one stepped forward, revolver raised. His grin was sharp as a knife, his eyes shining with greed. "End of the road, Creed," he spat. "Your legend dies tonight." His finger tightened on the trigger, the hammer pulling back, the barrel aimed for Jonah's skull. But Jonah was faster, not with bullets, but with instinct. He swung his revolver like iron and crushed the lean one's wrist, snapping bone, sending the gun spinning into the dust. A howl ripped from the man's throat, his weapon gone, his hand shattered. Jonah's empty Colt became a weapon still. Forged from desperation and fury, the shotgun boomed, blasting wood into splinters where Jonah had stood a heartbeat before. He threw himself into the dirt, rolling beneath the hunter's aim, and drove his fist into the man's gut. The shotgun clattered to the ground, its owner gasping, folding, spitting blood into the dust. The youngest hunter stepped back, his hands trembling now, his revolver wavering as fear carved itself across his face. He had thought Jonah finished, thought the legend empty. But now he saw the truth. The outlaw did not need bullets to kill. He only needed breath, rage, and the will to keep standing. Jonah rose slow, blood dripping from his lips, eyes black as the storm. He pointed his empty revolver at the last 2 hunters, his voice low, heavy with iron. "One bullet was all I needed. The rest of you will bury yourselves." And in that moment, The desert itself seemed to breathe with him, heavy and eternal, waiting for the final bodies to fall. The street was a graveyard waiting to be filled. Jonah stood bleeding, broken, yet unyielding. His revolver was empty, his strength nearly gone, but the hunters could not see past the shadow of his legend. To them, his gun still carried death, even if the chamber was hollow. The youngest lowered his weapon, fear turning his hand weak. He dropped his revolver into the dust, backing away, eyes wide, breath short. He had hunted Jonah Creed, but he had no desire to die for a bounty that could never match the weight of eternity. He fled, leaving behind the echoes of his cowardice. The shotgun man groaned in the dirt, blood thick in his throat. Jonah's boot came down hard, silencing him forever. The desert claimed another, and silence spread once more. Only the lean one remained, cradling his broken wrist, hatred burning hotter than pain. "You should have been dead," he hissed, his voice cracked, his eyes wild. Jonah raised his revolver, empty but steady, the barrel aimed square at the man's face. "Maybe," Jonah whispered, "but not by your hand." The hunter flinched, waiting for the shot that never came. And in that pause, in that terror, Jonah turned and walked away. The crowd emerged slowly, whispering, trembling. They had seen Jonah Creed stand against 4 men with only 1 bullet, and somehow he had lived. His legend grew that day, carved deeper into the bones of the West, carried on whispers and fear. Jonah staggered into the horizon, blood trailing behind him, the desert swallowing his shadow. His revolver was empty, yet it was heavier than ever, carrying not lead, but the weight of his survival. He had not needed more bullets. Fear itself was enough. And as the sun died behind the mountains, the West remembered one truth. Sometimes a single bullet can kill more than flesh. It can kill the will of men and leave their ghosts wandering forever in the dust.